What up, guys? Kevin here. Happy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Day. I did break down and bought the game. I was going to wait for it to come to PC, but I'm like, man, tomorrow I can just get hit by a bus, you know? Or I can get, oh man, probably the scariest thing in the world. You ever see those stories where someone gets an infection, just an infection, and then they have to like chop off their limbs, like all their limbs to survive? It, I know we do things so we can survive, like chopping off limbs, but if you have to chop off every single limb, just chop my head off too. I don't know. Can I write that down somewhere? Can I like call a hospital and say like, hey, this ever happens to me? I get an infection, you got to chop off all my limbs. Just go ahead and chop off my head and just kill me. That doesn't seem like, yeah, sure, I can just like be in, I don't know, a wheelchair and I don't know, read books and watch TV for a living, but just knowing that someone else's life is going to be dedicated to taking care of me 24/7, that does not sound very, I wouldn't do that to somebody. But anyways, you know else what I wouldn't do? Let gaming crash. That was a really bad segue. That was a really bad segue. But I don't think there's a gaming crash. I hear people calling this a gaming crash just because of the layoffs. EA, they laid off 670 people, 5% of the workforce. One game canceled, which is The Mandalorian, it sounds like, and they're doubling down on own IP, sports games, and massive online communities. Yeah, like, is this a gaming crash? People keep saying it. Was I there when game crashed the first time? When was that? Was that in like the 80s? Maybe I was alive. But if I was probably like one or two. No, we're not seeing a gaming crash. We're just seeing developers and publishers, they just don't know how to make games. They do not know how to make games. They don't. We shouldn't have gone from the 360 generation. And shout out to the Xbox 360. Shout out to you, Xbox. You know why shout out? Because every time I see what was the best time in gaming, it's always the Xbox 360 generation. Sometimes they'll say Xbox 360 / PS3, but that was the 360 generation. So shout out to them. Like, hey, Xbox, you have the crown of being the best time in gaming. That was all you. Ever since then, it's been downhill. But back then, games, such a huge leap in advancement, and we got new games. We got Gears 1, 2, and 3 in the same generation. What do we get? Halo 3, ODST, Reach in the same generation. We got Mass Effect 1, 2, 3 in the same generation. BioShock 1, 2, and 3 in the same generation. That's when Call of Duty just blew up, and we got quite a few Call of Duty games that were the best. Like, yeah. How do we go from that to games not looking that much better and taking 8-10 years to make? You can't do that. You cannot do that. You can't take 8 years to make Skull and Bones, Suicide Squad, and just to have them come out and flop. I didn't even know Skull and Bones was out. I saw that at Walmart last night. I'm like, oh, that game's out? I could buy a physical edition? It just can't happen. But let's explain what's really going on. Let's talk about the gamers. Let's blame the gamers. Let's blame people who play Fortnite. Fortnite is probably the biggest cancer in gaming right now. Games like Fortnite, Roblox, stuff like that. Games that existed or have existed for years, coming up on decades, and people choosing to play those games instead of playing anything else. Instead of taking their money, their hard-earned money, or a lot of times their hard-earned daddy's money, and buying a different game or two. Like, I grew up, and I don't think most people grew up We grew up with one and dones. We grew up with, oh, I just beat Chrono Trigger. Oh, cool. There's this game called Final Fantasy VII. I'm going to go play that. Oh, NFL Blitz. That game looks awesome. I'm going to play NFL Blitz. Cruising USA. Donkey Kong Country. That was my gaming upbringing. I grew up jumping from game to game. Now, I also grew up playing the same game over and over and over because my parents or my dad wasn't going to buy me a new game every week like I do right now, but I still got a few games a year. Kids these days, it's just that they all play Fortnite. They all play these games. I heard someone call it like a black hole gaming. Like these games are bigger than the 3 major platforms. That is really bad for gaming. That is really bad for gaming. You know what else is bad? Everybody making an 80-hour game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Yesterday, I'm like, all right, let's see, because I got the Platinum on Remake. Like, all right, how long does it take to get the Platinum? 150 to 200 hours. So these games, so we can put some blame on the developers, you're asking everyone to give you not just some time, like all their time. Like, hey, this is the only game you're going to play this year because it's going to take hundreds of hours to complete. The developers are doing it themselves because you want everyone to play your game and you feel like, oh my God, I got to give them hours and hours of content. Yeah, it's offensive. I've only beat one game this year. Because every other game I picked up this year takes like 50, 60 plus hours to beat. Even old games. I'm playing Trails in the Sky second chapter. I'm like, all right, just beat chapter 3. I got to be getting close, right? Oh, I'm not even halfway. 50 hours in, I'm not even halfway. Games should not take that long to play and beat. If I was making a game, it'd be 20 hours of main story and then an extra 10 hours of side stuff. And then boom, everything, you 100% the game. I feel like that would be the best game ever. But let's also talk about developers. I don't want to victim blame, but I always see like the average developer pays like $100,000. And this seems like an industry where there's a lot of people working because they're laying off a ton of people. Salaries probably need to come down in game development. I think they do. I'm not saying below making a livable wage, but $100,000 for me, that is a super livable wage. $100,000 for me, I'll be eating good. I don't make $100,000 a year. I make the most money I have ever made, and I live comfortably. But $100,000 a year, average for game developers that are making games that are flopping and in a bloated industry where it seems like everybody wants to be a game developer. You got to think about it. Why does everyone want to be a game developer? Because we grew up with playing video games, and video games are awesome. So I do think there needs to be an adjustment there. And I get it. It's usually like, one developer making millions of dollars because they're Hideo Kojima, and there are some that maybe make $25,000 because they're part-time or whatever. But on average, $100,000 is a lot of money. Game developers or these companies, they need to get their average to $75,000 for game developers. Now, the only issue with that is these people are good at making video games. They probably got a certain set of skills that they can take to another industry and make a butt ton of money. They can go to Apple, Google, or whatever. But I think that industry on a whole, I think wages, I hate saying wages need to come down. That sounds very fucked up, but yeah, yeah. I mean, I do think that on the whole, I think the medical industry, should doctors be making hundreds of thousands of dollars? But, they got a particular set of skills and they went to school for a long time. I really think like, hey, instead of $300,000-$400,000, you make 100 to 200,000 a year, and we take care of your schooling. That's just how I think. Now I'm just getting philosophical here. But anyways, let's get back to the gaming crash. Like, I don't think it's a gaming crash. Every week a game pops off. Every week, like a Pal World. Pal World. See, here's the issue with Pal World and like Helldivers. Those games, those two developers are receiving so much of the player base. There's only X amount of people playing games at a certain time. So, yeah, people are playing Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite. But if they're playing a game like Pal World, they don't need much money to survive. But we gave them all our money. Helldivers, we gave them all our money. The last Epoch, we gave them all our money. So we can, which I'm not saying it's not deserved, it's deserved, but then you got other games out there like Suicide Squad, Skull and Bones, a million other games, and we're not giving them that money because we gave them to those games. And does Pal World need 25 million players? Do they need 25 million players? I think every developer there is probably set for life now. Do you see what happens? You see how it works? We chose, hey Pal World developers, hey Helldiver developers, you get the money. You get the money, you get to stay in business. But that makes sense because they make great games, or games that are fun. Make fun games. But anyways, that's just my thoughts. Like, to me, a gaming crash will be when people just stop playing games. When, like, I see a report like, oh, people have moved on to driving go-karts. People are done playing video games, and now they're spending their free time driving go-karts. But yeah, gaming as a medium is probably going to just stick around. We moved on from reading. We moved on from movies and television and all that. Gaming's where it's at. It's interactive. It's social. I think that's here to stay. And I don't know what can top that. I really don't. Maybe like kind of a VR type experience. Like a VR social experience. But even that's kind of in gaming as well too. But anyways, I'm done here. I'm just rambling. But I got to go. I'm going to go back to bed. It's my day off. I took a day off to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I'm going to do just that. Oh, I also got Brothers Tales of Two Sons remake. It was like $15. And I'm hearing people like, or reviewers like, is it worth buying again if you've already played it the first time? Yes, it's a great game. Here's an opportunity or a reason for you to support a great game. Talking about giving support to games. Here's a great game. Support it. You played it before. It was awesome. Play it again because it's awesome. Well, actually, I don't know. I'm hearing mixed things. Maybe we'll wait for my review on that. But anyways, I got to go. I'll talk to you later. Later.